Hello.
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 Wow, that worked. Mostly. I'm a little blurry, but I don't know if it's my eyes or my lens here. Let me see. Hello, wakey.
You are a little blurry.
I can be... I wouldn't normally worry, but I've spent an obscene amount of money on being not blurry. And so I'm very, very keen that the blurriness does not become a recurring feature. But I do feel a little blurry. So this is, of course, of no benefit to all the people listening on the podcast, because, I mean, we could do muffled audio as well tomorrow, but you know...
Actually, it looks better now. So, yes, people listening on the podcast, Dylan is no longer blurry. Or, you know, the other possibility, because we are both advancing in years, is...
Tell you what, it might be. Hang on.
We're just old. Yes. So, how have you been?
I have been. I have been well. I've been extremely productive. I've been so Rockstar 2 is has just been upgraded to the keynote at the Copenhagen Developers Festival, which is obviously because it is a fantastic tour de force of the state of the art of computer programming as an art form, and esoteric languages and parsers and compilation theory and asynchronous programming pipelines.
I actually heard that next year QCon San Francisco is having a Rockstar track.
Yes, I heard that next year QCon San Francisco is just all Rockstar, and if you want to talk about Java, you're going to have to go and do that in the toilet like civilized people.
Yes.
But
don't worry, the year after that, Dylan's going to sell Rockstar to Oracle. Go back to normal.
So, but no, it's going like really well. It's that point you always get to, and one of the reasons why I have never been very successful as a project manager who is accountable to other people is that the sort of the final stages of a project are when all the really good ideas happen. Because you've sort of solved there's always the big piece. There's is this thing even going to work? And there's a point where you're like, okay, the deal breakers, the things that if they didn't work, the whole project is off. We've solved all of them. That works. And then as you start kind of what they call dog fooding, as you start playing around with the thing you've built, you just keep having all these ideas. The Mark Dillon balance is a little off, apparently. Who said there was balance?
Sound? Or is it just that Dylan's talked more than me?
I got a thing I can twiddle here. Is that better?
For everybody.
I should have just got a lot louder. But Dylan loud, Mark soft.
Doing auto normalization stuff over the top of it. So
but Dylan is loud and Mark is soft because Dylan plays the guitar and Mark plays the bass. This is just how it works.
Yes.
I'm going to fix my autofocus. This is really bugging me. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
So I can keep talking. It's just the camera's going to go a little weird, which obviously is a huge problem for the people listening on the podcast.
Yes.
But there we go. That's off, and then that's back on, and now that's in, and that's nice. And any second, there we go. That's beautiful. Look at that. So the Elgato cam links, I have two of them. And they are fantastic pieces of kit. So for folks who haven't seen it, a lot of modern digital cameras have an HDMI out. So you can, if you really want to, you can plug your camera into your TV and you can watch yourself watching TV. Or you can plug the HDMI onto a cam link and then Windows goes, that's a nice webcam. Yeah, I can totally use that with all your stuff. So it works incredibly well. And they are tiny little boxes about the size of a penguin bar or a Tim Tam, if you know what that is. And they don't have any kind of cooling or anything. They get incredibly hot if you run them for 20 hours, which I frequently do because I forget to switch things off.
Yes.
But they also don't have any airflow. They don't have any fans or anything. So I'm seriously thinking you could take the cam link, put it inside like 6 inches of heavy-duty polythene, like polythene pipe, tie both ends up with cable ties, and then just submerge the whole thing in water. And every time it starts getting a bit warm, you just replace the water. And so you've got passive liquid cooling because they're not connected to anything other than with wires coming out of either end. So I might do that when I have a moment. Anyway, that's why I was late to the show today, because it's very, very warm here, and once you close all the windows so that you don't get a podcast made entirely out of people going down the road outside my house on those little 4x4 quad bikes with no helmets on, because apparently that is what it is to be young and free in southeast London in 2024. So anyway, yes, Rockstar. And yeah, it's got to the point where it's like I've got an interpreter and I've got an editor and I've got all the language features I want working, and I am trying to add syntax highlighting for the web editor because there's a lot of things in Rockstar where the same piece of text can mean something very different depending where it is. And one of the most common problems is using I as an index variable because you haven't realized that I is a pronoun in this context. And so when you say let I be 12, or let I be the index, you think it's going to set I to the index, but what it actually does is looks up whatever the last variable you assigned was, and assigns it to the number 35, because that's the index if you count the digits and count the letters and turn them into digits. Right. And having little things like that show up in an obvious color make it a little easier to see what's going on. Yes. But of course, this being the internet, there is nobody out there has gone, hey, look, we can do this thing. You write your grammar here, and then you can turn that into a parser for this application, but you can also turn it into a parser you can use to do syntax highlighting on the internet. So I've had days of sitting in C#, which I love, and just adding features and figuring stuff out. And, you know, this there's two kinds of kind of getting things done. There's coding and there's what I think of as shopping. And coding is when you're like, I understand the problem, I am going to use the tools I know to make the problem go away. Yes. And shopping is, somebody must have fixed this. I will go to shop after shop after shop after shop after shop until I find the answer. And the library I'm using, which is called CodeMirror, is incredibly, like CodeMirror version 5 was like, there's a text area, turn it into a syntax highlighting editor, here are your keywords. And it went, yeah, obviously I can do that. And I suspect that what has happened is that the folks who maintain it got so tired of being asked, can we do this? No. Can we do this? No. Can we do this? It doesn't support that. Can we do this? Nah, not a thing. They went, right, we're going to build something that will give everyone everything they asked for. And so that's CodeMirror version 6, which is just unbelievably powerful, but maddening. Yes. Because every single example assumes you already know 150 other things. So,
have you considered Monaco?
No, what's Monaco?
That's the fully open source and entirely NPM installable thing that makes Visual Studio Code work. Mm. And so when you go to github.dev or whatever it is, that's the thing there. I only ask because I built a site a while back where it was for your OpenAPI JSONs or YAMLs to go. Yeah. And it had Monaco installed with the JSON and YAML and OpenAPI plugins. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember it being difficult.
It wouldn't be difficult if I was doing it for a sensible programming language that wasn't unhinged. The sort of slight difficulty, Rockstar basically does all the things that they say, don't do that. Like, why would you do that? Every time I have given up asking for help, because every time I ask anyone who knows anything about programming for help, they're like, well, why are you doing that? And I have to explain that it's a joke that I like. And at that point, you can kind of see the contempt for people who are not building serious programming languages, like materialize in the text box before they've even typed anything. But it's almost there. But no, the difficulty, the thing about CodeMirror is you can actually build a parser, so it will actually parse your entire input and figure out, because it's not just a question of if you see that word, color it this color, because there's like I said, lots of places where and it uses so there's a thing called look ahead parsing, which is where to figure out what this means, you sneak a little look at the next thing.
Yes.
And
that's the thing that the Go compiler doesn't do.
Yeah, lots of it makes it
lazy.
Yeah, it makes it exponentially slower. The further you look ahead, like it's something like each look ahead is an order of magnitude more possible branches that you need to do. The way to make a compiler that compiles code in constant time, or rather, in linear time, is that it never goes forwards and it never goes backwards. Every single time it gets a token, it's like, I know exactly what this means. This is completely unambiguous right here, right now. And Rockstar is full of things where it's like, oh, so you just typed a comma. Well, if the next thing is a space and then the word and, then the comma is an Oxford comma that you're using to separate the arguments you're passing to a function. But if the next thing is a new line and then the keyword else, then this is just you doing if statements that read nicely. And if the next thing is an end of line and then another end of line, then the comma doesn't matter because we're about to end a block anyway. And, you know, and I got it all working in PEG using an expression grammar in .NET. And I honestly, I'd done about 2 or 3 days of research about this. I read the papers by the guy who built CodeMirror, or the guy who designed the CodeMirror parsing system. And, you know, based on reading stuff and making notes in a notebook, I was like, I think that the expression grammar will map fairly cleanly onto this. And then I realized that CodeMirror, there is no way to make it case insensitive, because it just will not do that. It's like, if you want to match keywords that aren't case sensitive, you need to build your own tokenizer. So I built a tokenizer, which is every bit as trivial as you might think it is. And it can't do look-aheads, so the custom tokenizer, I had to translate all the look-aheads and figure out what the .NET parser, because the .NET's a parser generator. So I didn't write the parser, I wrote the grammar. The grammar creates the parser, and then I run the thing through the parser. That gives me the syntax tree, and then I put the syntax tree into the interpreter, and it tells me what the program does. So, yeah, it's all fine. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I've been doing all week, is figuring out how to get... yesterday, I spent 4 hours trying to get a plus sign to go orange, and when it did, I was so happy. And it is definitely that kind of, you know, deep hack mode where when stuff is working, the dopamine stream is just one hit after another, after another, after another. And when it's not, you turn into a feral little goblin and you go out and your friends are like, what's wrong? And you're like, the program didn't work when I left the house today and I hate everybody and I wish you were all dead because I want to go back and play with it until it works. So anyway, yeah, that's what I've been doing. But I did go and see the new Deadpool and Wolverine film.
Oh, so good.
Now, at this point, we should probably warn any folks on the stream who want to see the film and haven't seen the film that you should stop watching or listening right now. And you should go to see the film. And after that, you can come back and you can watch the rest, or you can listen into this. Because we are going to spoiler the hell out of this.
Yes.
Now, the one thing on the subject of spoilers that cropped up this week was when you're kind of in the blinkers on, I'm going to see it next week, I don't want to hear anything. It is incredibly disingenuous of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to make any other significant announcements while you're trying to ignore all the stuff. Because...
any particularly significant announcements?
Well, the one that I thought was a spoiler, because I got caught and I was like, I didn't want to know that. And then I watched the entire film and went, I guess not then, was... Robert Downey Jr., who's coming back as Dr. Doom. Yes. So
I don't know how to feel about that. Because on the one hand, you know, he's awesome and he was absolutely brilliant as Tony Stark, and films with him in will be good. But on the other hand, it's making me feel bad for Marvel, because it's such a kind of climb down move. Like, you know,
So when Robert Downey Jr.
how do you explain to the audience that these two people look the same?
I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has got to the point where they don't give a shit, and neither does anybody else. I was sitting watching Deadpool last night in a relatively busy cinema with quite a lot of people who were, about 80% of them were laughing at the things that people were laughing at, and the other 20% had this completely bemused... Like when Chris Evans shows up and you're like, oh, it's Captain America. And then he does Flame On, and you remember that before he was Captain America, the same actor was Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four movies that we don't talk about.
I mean, and we sort of, we can talk about the first one. It wasn't the second one was a disaster, because if you're gonna do the Silver Surfer, you have to do it properly.
Yeah.
And then there was the reboot in like 2006, I think it was.
Which is
hands down the worst superhero movie I've ever seen.
So do you know, have you ever seen Roger Corman's Fantastic Four?
No.
because he was so this is before any of the movies that anyone ever saw came out. Fox owned the rights, and Fox had a clause in their contract which said that they retained the rights for, it was something like 7 years. They had the rights for 7 years, but if a film had not gone into production after 7 years, the rights would revert to Marvel, who could then sell them to somebody else.
Right.
And it didn't say anything about the kind of the scale of the release or the publicity. It just said, you got to make a movie and it's got to be in a cinema, otherwise you're bad and you don't get the rights. And they
at least hire caterers.
Yeah, so they made a movie. They hired Roger Corman and gave him something like $250,000, which is, it's a lot of money to normal people, but it is nothing in Hollywood. And they made a Fantastic Four movie that played for 1 week in one cinema in California and was then buried forever. And to their credit, the entire cast and crew, they all knew what they were getting themselves in for. Yes. And the sort of special effects.
One moment, because I want to make sure I'm not having like a senior moment here. Roger Corman directed Death Race 2000, right?
Yes, that's him. Okay. Famous B-movie director.
Yeah.
Who has made lots of very good bad films and relatively not any good films.
Death Race 2000 is one of the best out there. It's so bad.
And this is floating around. There's bits of it on YouTube and stuff. But yes, the whole premise of, well, this character's played by that actor, but actually we got that actor back to be a different character. And now the thing that was bothering me, and this might be one of those Berenstein Bears moments, is I would absolutely swear that I saw Ryan Reynolds playing Gambit in an X-Men movie about 15, 20 years ago.
Nope.
Like, I am certain that happened. And
I could see that casting decision making sense.
Yeah. And so when Channing Tatum shows up as Gambit, I'm like, that's nice.
Yeah.
And then apparently this suddenly happened to me. Apparently nobody else has ever seen Ryan Reynolds playing Gambit in an X-Men movie. So
yeah,
I don't know where I got that from.
That's one of those glitches in the Matrix moments.
It happened in my timeline, and I'm sticking to it. So
did the Green Lantern also happen?
I don't know what you're talking about. The only superhero Ryan Reynolds ever played before Deadpool was Gambit in the X-Men movies. I have seen it, and it's so terrible. You sort of... it's the only movie I've ever seen that's so bad that my own eyelids tried to stage an intervention. What did you think?
Deadpool and Wolverine was... I'm not really a comics geek. I do like Marvel. I've read a lot of the sort of when they put a bunch of things together, they call it Infinity War or whatever. But the character where I've got actual comics kicking around the house is Deadpool. I buy comics on occasion if I see them. And he's my absolute favorite. And Ryan Reynolds is like a god. And Blake Lively is a very lucky woman. But what I really liked about it is it was Ryan Reynolds. He if anything, he just turned it up a notch.
Yeah.
Because, you can imagine him having a conversation with Kevin Feige and Kevin Feige going, so you'll tone it down a little bit, though, because we're going to go for a 15 rather than an 18. And he kind of went, yeah, all right, so we'll lose some of that stuff, but we're just going to jack this up instead and have a dead Ant-Man and whatever.
Yeah.
And then beside that, throughout the entire movie, Hugh Jackman just keeps it completely straight, and it just works so well. It's brilliant. Yeah, I think it might be my favorite Marvel movie now.
There were definitely moments I don't think Hugh Jackman as Logan Wolverine has ever put a foot wrong. But there was definitely the moment when he jumps out the back of the bus with the full Wolverine in the right colors with the helmet, and I was like, that frame there is what I've been waiting for since they said they were making an X-Men movie.
Yes.
And it's not that there was anything wrong with any of the others, but it's like they just never quite hit the yes, Well,
because that X-Men 97 that they've got on Disney Plus now, the animation, they've basically remade the thing that was Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
When we were in our sort of 20s. You were probably in your late teens, I don't know. And yeah, you would wake up on Saturday morning and start drinking Coke to try and make the hangover go away. And the only thing you could face doing was watching the cartoons. Yep. And so I remember religiously watching the X-Men. Like, no, I can't go on to another club. I've got to go back and watch the X-Men.
So we used to binge, Fox Kids used to do Spider-Man Weekenders and that kind of thing. And yeah, you get up after being out clubbing until 4 o'clock in the morning, park yourself in front of the TV, maybe microwave last night's leftover doner kebab and stick a fried egg on top because protein is important, and sit and watch cartoons until it's time to do it all over again. But so I got some friends who are kind of very big into Star Wars, and as am I, you know. And I have never seen the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch or any of that kind of stuff because I just can't get into animated versions of things I love as live action.
No.
Can't do it. I don't know what it is. It doesn't work. And the same with, like, you know, the X-Men 97 and stuff. Yeah, looking at it, I'm like, this doesn't connect right.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, with the X-Men in particular, it's crazy because now Wolverine has turned up. And Professor X was in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
And when did, like, Bryan Singer's first X-Men movie come out? That must have been in the 90s.
No, it would have been 2000 and... Actually, maybe the late 90s?
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. It was like 98, 99.
If only we were connected to this thing where we could look up anything in any time.
Because, you know, we kind of go 23 movies and that was over 10 years and then it all came together with this and all this sort of stuff. But now they're just like going, anything that has ever had anybody from Marvel in it is part of the multiverse. And so that means the X-Men's like still, it's the same franchise continuously through from one to the next.
2000. The first Bryan Singer X-Men was 2000.
Right.
That makes sense.
So the X-Men franchise is still going after 24 years, which isn't bad for a movie series. You know, not quite as good as Star Wars, obviously.
I heard a lovely quote the other day. Someone was talking to Steve Vai about his Ibanez Gem signature guitars. And he said, the thing about the Gem is it's been in production now for coming up on 30 years. In fact, there's only 3 people in history who've ever had a signature guitar in production for more than a decade. Me, Joe Satriani, and Les Paul. And I was like, all right, I guess the Les Paul technically was a signature guitar. When Gibson went to Mr. Les Paul and said, hey, what kind of guitar would you like? We'll make you one. And he got a lot of things right. So, so Origami Marie has pointed out that Star Trek the Animated Series was good. And
that's an interesting variation on the theme, though, isn't it? Because it wasn't about Worf and Picard and Troy and Riker and all that sort of thing. It was set in the universe, but it was a completely new set of characters. And then
I'm assuming we're talking about Star Trek the Animated Series. You know the 1970s, the Filmation one?
Not Lower Decks.
No. Star Trek the Animated Series. I mean, Lower Decks is great. Lower Decks is lots of fun. But Lower Decks, for me, is definitely a cartoon show, not a live action, not a cartoon version of a show. Complicated.
No, it's like Rick and Morty in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah, exactly that. The animated series.
Star Trek, the animated series.
So they made 2 series. It was really interesting because it was the same cast and the same writers, but they didn't have the budget to do the effects.
Aspiring.
Yeah, and so they wrote the same kind of scripts as they would have done if they were making another series of Star Trek, the original series. And they had the same William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley and Nichelle Nichols, all of the same folks reprising their roles. But then they Filmationed it all, so it's that sort of Hanna-Barbera style, very, very low budget 1970s.
Scooby-Doo sort of.
There's no shadows on anything, and you know the eyes are just little black circles, and the
one where you were explaining to your kids, yes, people in the 1970s couldn't draw, but they became animators anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, Disney could. They were good.
Yes.
But so yeah, that was the Star Trek the animated series, which I've seen little bits and pieces of, not watched it in any great detail, but what I've seen I quite liked.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's been my week. I've been building Parsers, getting Rockstar 2 ready to go, and going to see Wolverine and Deadpool. And going on long bike rides and drinking a lot of beer in pub beer gardens because it's summer and that's just a nice thing to do.
Well, that sounds so no. Well, I just got back from Edinburgh last night. I was up there for a couple of days for work, and it's quite nice. You get to see people that you're working with. That 6 weeks of Teams and emails and whatever, and then we played banked shuffleboard, which I had never played before. And it's like normal shuffleboard, but to fit more of them into a space, they basically bend it in half, and you have to bounce your puck or whatever it is off the thing at the bottom.
So .NET Southwest. Hello, .NET Southwest.
Hello,
I almost certainly know whoever is hiding behind .NET Southwest right now. Says, do you stream this on YouTube too? Twitter is a pain to watch on. Yes, we do, but it's at youtube.com/@techbugsrockroll. It is worth commenting that when we do it on YouTube, we get between 15 and 20 people, and when we do it on Twitter, we get about 150. Yes. So for everything that Twitter is a rancid cesspool full of filth and scum and villainy, it's a really good way of getting a lot of people to look at the thing you're doing. Yes, leave that. Go on YouTube. Go and watch us on YouTube. Yes, YouTube's where it's at. Like and subscribe, as the young people say. And when we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll do something. So, sorry, you were saying?
Yes, apart from that, the Edinburgh thing, I got Relay working, my send yourself things for other things.
How do you spell Relay?
Reyay.
Relay. All right, that works.
I
like relay, but with a yay in it.
Like relay, but with a yay in it.
Yeah, all right.
Got the .com. So I'm thinking, yeah. So anyway, I got it working, and I was in the web browser on my desktop machine, and I right-clicked on a picture of Minions, and I copied it to my clipboard, and then I pasted it into my Relay app, and then I went onto my laptop, and it was running on there, and it went, oh look, you've pasted something from Pigbox, which is what my desktop machine is called. Would you like to paste it here? And then I opened up PowerPoint, and I just did right-click paste, and it pasted the image and I was just kind of like, yes, it is viable.
I really want that.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So now what I've done, because this is important and I feel like this needs to be done right, is I've started writing it all again.
Yep.
And I'm not using any of the code, and I'm switching, so it was a JSON API, I'm changing it to be gRPC. And I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I've independently discovered them. Because every time I think it's, you kind of go, oh, this is a good way of doing this, and you tell people about it, and I've invented a pattern, and they go, no, Blicky Martin Fowler. So please, somebody in chat or in the comments on the podcast, just tell me what this is called. I'm using Avalonia. I'm really liking it.
Thought I knew the person behind .NET Southwest. Hello, Carl.
Hello,
welcome.
Carl. So yes, I'm using Avalonia. Yeah. Avalonia are they push reactive UI rather than MVVM sort of pure thing. And so I'm going, well, I'll see what reactive UI is all about. And it's I could do a whole, we'll do a geek out about it or something.
Yeah.
Because it is really, really good. And so you've got you still have view model. Yeah. And your view models just using observables instead of property chains and all this sort of stuff. But then I've also got engine. And engine is where the actual stuff happens. It's where the data, all that sort of thing. And so the view model, all it does is you do something in the UI and it sends a job to the engine. And then the job has an observable sending back updates until it's finished. And so, and the engine's implemented in a separate project which means it can't see any of the Avalonia types, so I can't pass clipboard across to it. So it's keeping it really clean.
Yeah.
So if I did, if Avalonia exploded and I went, oh no, I need to re-implement this in Uno platform or something, it would not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's the API development thing as well. So I was sort of building the API up front. New project, re-a.api, new gRPC thing, proto service, messages. And I'm kind of like going, yeah. And so what I'm doing instead is I'm building the client again with a proto file in the client project. And I will just I'll make changes to the proto file so it does everything that the client needs. And then I will take that and I will use it to implement the server. Rather than the other way round. Because why should the server say this is how things are done when the client is the important thing and that's what everyone sees? And so what you want is the client to be able to say, this would be really convenient if you could give it to me this way. That's how I want to have it. And so that's what I'm doing. So yes, that's two patterns: defining the API as you're building the client, not as you're building the server, and model view model engine.
That's cool.
ME.
So I discovered something. You're talking about, stumbling across something independently.
Yes.
I had a snag with the Rockstar grammar that I have been bashing my head against and trying to figure it out. And eventually I discovered that it has been independently discovered by every programming language designer since Algol 60. And it's known as the dangling else problem, which is like, if 1, then if 2, then if 3, else 4.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, well, which else is yeah.
Which is why you have curly braces or significant white space.
Yes, which I don't, because
Have you considered, right?
Yes.
Your ooh, where you can add extra O's and it closes more braces.
Yep.
Well, if you had long ors instead of else's, and then you could just add O's to the start of the or.
Yeah.
No.
So
no.
It's. I mean, I've thought about things like
hard, isn't it?
Well, one of the principles, something that I figured out very early when I started rebuilding this thing was, you're familiar with the phrase the North Star, the thing that you refer back to when you're not sure if you're on the right track or not. And the North Star of Rockstar is that everything you can possibly do in a programming language has to be expressible in a way which looks like completely ordinary song lyrics.
Okay.
There is no point, and even the word else, like the word else, you never use else in idiomatic Rockstar because people don't say, hey, go to the shops and if they've got milk, get some milk, else get this. It's not how people talk. We say otherwise. So it's called if else in the grammar, but the token is otherwise, and else is supported as an alias. And the ooh thing was just a lovely moment of... You do actually get ooh, and you could put o or o or o, and it just looks normal because when there's a very long ooh, they just put it in the sleeve notes of the record as an ooh with 4 O's in it, and you're like, all right, yeah, that works. And I've got the whole syntax, so you can close 5 blocks by going, oh yeah, baby, 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 and. Since I'm now going to be doing talks about this thing, I'm looking for snippets of songs where... So the song So Young by The Cause?
Yes.
Opens with the line, yeah, 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 yeah. And it just works, because why would it not work? And then it goes on to have 5 other entire lines in the entire song, because they clearly weren't rocking on lyrics that day. So... But yeah, and that was an example of this is really, really hard, and then you're like, oh, it is really hard. It's not just me being dense or getting out of my depth. This is a difficult problem that people have been grappling with for decades. All right, I feel better now about how stuck I am.
Just to be completely clear, when you're done with Rockstar 2.0, you will be able to compile a Rockstar program to a .NET executable?
No. So Rockstar will be like Python, as in it's an interpreted language, but there will be platform native interpreters for Windows, Linux, and macOS, and a web version running on WebAssembly. And so you will still need Rockstar. You will always need Rockstar installed to run a Rockstar program. I haven't got into emitting... Yeah. I mean, if somebody wanted to come along and build an IL emitter or something for it, it's got the parse tree for it is relatively simple. Yes. And, if the only headache is dynamic typing is really, really hard to do.
I wrote a compiler for Brain Effect.
Yeah.
Because I wrote an interpreter.
Yeah.
And actually... writing it as an interpreter is quite difficult because I was sort of managing a stack and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I think this is actually easier. Yeah. Because that's essentially the start of a while loop and that's the end of the while loop. And so I can literally just emit C# code, compile it in memory into an assembly and then run it. And so then I've turned it into a compiler. What I haven't done is go back to my C# BF compiler and add native AOT to it. So that it actually produces platform native binaries. But yeah, because then the reason I asked was because I had another idea for it the other day when I was messing around with platform identifiers in my Avalonia app because it targets iOS and Android and Windows and Mac and Linux. And I thought you could, if you have the song title at the top and then the band, and then if there was some way that the name of the band could indicate the target runtime environment, like Linux x64 or something.
So the one token concession that I've made to sensible computer programming is that you can have hash bang lines. You can put hash comments in, and that's purely so if you want to put hash bang /bin /rockstar at the top of your program. But the whole, the idea of compiling to native code, the source code is the whole point. Without the source code, it's just slightly, It doesn't you can't do anything in Rockstar as an executable that you can't do in 1,000 other languages, which are way better suited for it than Rockstar is. So,
has it got a JSON parser?
Not yet.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be that. Ooh, yeah. No, it does not have a JSON parser. It doesn't have any input-output at the moment. If you wanted to parse JSON, you'd have to paste the JSON into your program and reinterpret it. But the baseline at the moment is still don't add any features that weren't in version 1, but get the whole thing running cross-platform. And then I have a little list of relatively easy things I'm going to bolt into it for 2.0. And then probably 2.1 will add file system and network access because there's a lot of things that suddenly get very difficult. I want to open a file. So one of the nice kind of conventions that's been established is if you want to open a file, the syntax I'm proposing is that you put the file name you want into a string, and then you just say open, so file equals data.txt, open file, and once you've finished running open file isn't a file name anymore, file is now a stream. So the open operator actually replaces the file name with the reference to the thing that you get the file from.
This is why I hate dynamic programming languages.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fun. So, that's all in the pipeline. And the JSON parsing, no, not yet. But the whole idea, standard libraries, modules, none of that stuff was in 1.0. You had one file, and everything had to be in the file apart from standard in.
Ryan Dahl launched Node.js, and I don't think it had an HTTP client for 18 versions or something.
Yes.
And now they're implementing the browser APIs because Bun and Dino have come along and started.
Yeah. Dino, as in Ryan Dahl going, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Here, I made you this. I hope it makes it better.
It doesn't, Ryan. It really doesn't.
It has been, the working on a project which is 50%. So Bug in the JavaScript is it's a comedy song, but there is a lot of truth in it because it is astonishing how the difference between doing quick and dirty C# and doing good quality C# is not that big a difference in terms of how much time you spend feeling productive while you accomplish it.
Yeah.
But the difference between quick and dirty JavaScript and properly engineered JavaScript is it's an order of magnitude. Because you go, oh, I need to do this. How do I do this? I pull in the library. You pull in the library using NPM. And NPM says, this package leaks memory and should not be used. And you're like, that's not the one I'm using. No. I need this one. I need the the Lexa, and the Lexa uses this, and this uses this, and apparently the people who use that have said it's bad for you. And you're like, can I really, why am I bothering to write unit tests when the ecosystem is going, this leaks memory and suck it?
So I read a really interesting article by the CEO of Tailscale.
Yeah.
Lamenting the complexity of the modern internet. And
yes.
Then coincidentally, because I think someone sent me a link to that yesterday, and then this morning I read Swift on Security, the Twitter influencer person. Wrote a piece about the user and blaming the user when they install an update to Java because Java's okay, but suddenly there's a new toolbar in Internet Explorer and now they've got a virus, but they're not supposed to get a virus because their friend Scott recommended a $50 malware package that doesn't do anything. And trying to do... When I was starting off Fret Badger, I very briefly thought, I'm going to do this in Svelte. And Svelte is famously the simplest, or Svelte Kit, actually, to be more accurate. And it's supposed to be the simplest out of all of them. But just anything that involves NPM at any point is just... Why would you do it to yourself? I don't understand.
It is so... So Steven says, does Rockstar have comments? Yes, it does. So a Rockstar comment is in parentheses, ordinary brackets.
It's very good.
Because that's how you write comments in ordinary English, is if you've got a little extra bit, you put it in brackets. And so brackets go around comments, which means you can't use brackets for arithmetic. And if that scares you, you should probably not use Rockstar for anything. There is no way in Rockstar of defining order operator precedence other than putting things into intermediate expressions, which is good because that way you have to write more lines of lyrics and so you get bigger songs. And the other thing that it has, which someone committed as a PR to version 1, is there's a format called Chord Pro where you put your artist and your title in curly brackets and then you put all your chord names in square brackets and then you run it through a tool that makes you a PDF of lyrics with guitar chords above them. And Rockstar supports Chord Pro, so you can write Rockstar programs which have chords and then PDF them and then sing along and play them on your guitar, which I thought was just a nice gesture.
That's like the Rockstar version of .comments.
So the first feature I'm going to put in, once I've got parity and all the bits are done, the first thing I'm going to put in, and I'm quite excited about this, is the most Leroy Jenkins feature of any programming language ever. If the word quine appears anywhere in any Rockstar program, that program will print its own source code, regardless of what else is in it. So you can take a 5,000-line Ruby program, which has the word quine on line 3074, and it will be a valid Rockstar program that prints its own source code.
Oh, right. So, okay. In that case, can you make the runner accept URLs? And then you can sort of just go Rockstar http://en.wikipedia.org/quine, and it would come
yeah, I guess. Yes, we can do that.
This is why nobody lets us work on important things.
Even if the word quine is in a comment, yes. So the only restriction that I've put on this is that the word quine has to have a non-word character on both sides of it. It's either got to be at the beginning of the file or the end of the file, or there's got to be a space or a tab or a new line either side of it. The reason for this is I really, really, really want to get Rockstar into the Ouroboros quine. And the way to do that is to get it on Aptitude, so you can apt-get install it on Linux, and make it so easy for them to put whatever the Ouroboros Quine currently looks like into Rockstar and get it back out the other end, that there's no reason not to. Mark's brain has crashed.
Yeah, no, I got it. So basically, around the Ouroboros Quine, where it's doing like Python to Julia or something.
Which it won't do because it's in alphabetical order. That's the absolute sheer...
Python to Ruby. You can stick Rockstar in. Actually, if they're doing it in alphabetical order, you'll come just before Ruby. So somebody will give you a load of text that is already the valid Ruby program.
I will be between.
Program will just repeat it, and then it'll get absorbed by the Ruby.
I think Rockstar will go in. If it gets in there, it'll go in between Rex and Ruby.
Yeah, there you go.
So it'll get a Rex program, run it through, hopefully see the word Quine. If it sees the word Quine, it'll go, that's a Quine, I'm going to print out the whole thing, and then they can feed that into Ruby, and off they go.
Yeah,
so,
like you were never there, in fact.
And the other thing that I was thinking about doing, but I think I'm not going to, because I think this might upset dangerous people, was to put syntax in there. You know code golf? You know there are a standard set of code golf problems.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like print the 12 days of Christmas using the smallest program possible. Well, I was just going to put a thing in there, like if a Rockstar program consists only of the Santa Claus emoji, it prints the 12 days of Christmas.
That would upset the code golf people.
And then you could go on to code golf and just put it in, because on code.golf, you never see the source code. It just runs what you gave it through an interpreter, and if you win, you get on the leaderboard, but no one can see what you won with, because they can't see each other's contributions.
Was that sharp as 3 characters or 1? How's the DF8 handling?
It would be, I don't know, actually. Probably 3. I think I'd probably do it based on code points. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought, that might be an interesting kind of acknowledgement of the fact that people out there are doing code golf in Rockstar, which is a just strange idea that I don't know why they would do that. But yes.
So I saw a mad thing. So Activision Blizzard. Rami Ismail on Twitter shared this. They did some sort of A/B testing on Call of Duty, and they do this on a sort of ongoing basis, where they either turn off or adjust the skill-based matchmaking, or whatever it is they call it.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was astonished to find that online games have skill-based matchmaking. And what that means is I'm just really bad at games, because I assume they've got me playing with small children whose parents have gone, oh, go on, you can have the controller while I go and do the carrots. And I'm still getting headshotted across the thing, and I don't like it and stuff. But no, it's the idea that you had a bad night on Call of Duty because they were A/B testing you and putting you up against esports players.
I think it's the other way round. I think the problem is that any online game you go into, at least one of the other players will be like a 32-year-old man who's just having a go on his kid's PlayStation.
Yes.
And so it's a profile that is very, very bad at games and has all the metrics and analytics associated with being very bad at games, but it's not that person playing it just now. And the thing about that is that even if that person plays like once a month, the number of people playing popular online games means that there will always, in any skill-based matchmaking game, there will be somebody who is significantly more competent than the algorithm thinks that account should be right now, and they don't play enough to update the averages.
See, that puts me in mind. Okay, so before I say this next thing, I'm going to announce a competition for regular listeners and viewers of the podcast. At some point, one of us is going to repeat a story we've already told.
Yes.
And so the first person to spot that will get a Tech Bugs and Rock and Roll sticker as soon as we get some printed.
We should get some stickers, shouldn't we?
We should get some stickers.
Yeah.
So yes, I'll leave that in your, because you've got sticker people.
I have sticker people.
Sticker people and graphic design skills, which I do not have. Do you want to do some graphic design on an Avalonia app at some point to stop it looking khaki? That'd be good. I'll give you shares and everything.
Deal.
Anyway, no, the adaptive skill and matchmaking and stuff. The Rocksmith plus
Yeah.
the Xbox game. Actually, no, it wasn't plus. It was just Rocksmith. We had the Xbox 360 version.
Yeah.
And Willow was taking guitar lessons at school, and I was kind of going through one of my maybe I'll learn to play guitar this time. And so Willow played on her account and had complicated chords and all sorts of madness and hammer-ons and things coming down the screen at her. And I played on my account, which had kind of single notes and maybe the occasional chord and stuff. Except then I would go to work during the summer holidays, and Willow would basically just play Rocksmith on my account all day. So that when I came home, I had to turn it on and then just walk away and leave it and not hit any of the notes, and then come back and start another, just to get it to go back down to a level where I could play it.
Yeah.
So, yes, that was fun.
Rocksmith was very clever.
It was very clever.
I have certainly heard you tell that story before.
Thing. I know I've told you, but I couldn't remember if I told our
but I don't think that counts, so I'm not going to claim the stickers, which I would have to give to myself anyway. So
weird. But no, Rocksmith's adaptive skill thing was masterfully executed, actually.
Yeah.
I very rarely... The only sort of downside to it was kind of like going, I'm doing really well, so I'm going to be punished.
It's like real life in many ways.
Yes. It's an A minor.
So, talking about building apps and stuff, something I wanted to chat about was beta testing, because I'm about to get to the point where I want to show Rockstar to some people, and then to some other people, and then to a bigger group of people, to the point where I can be confident that when the whole world, or however many 100 people out there jump on it, it's going to be okay. And the way so beta testing is one of those interesting things that I've done on, real sensible projects before. And you kind of ship version, and if there's often an obvious bug, which you just don't know about because you subconsciously know that you don't do that, or that's not how you think about it anymore. And so many times I've seen the first wave of beta testers all get as far as the first bug, all report the same thing, and then all go away going, that's it, I've done enough beta testing, I've found a bug for them. If everyone finds a bug, it'll be really good. And what you end up with is 50 reports of the same bug, and nobody's got any others. And so what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put out a call for people, and I'm going to say, who wants to jump on a Zoom call with me for 15 minutes, and you get to hit Rockstar with a stick while I watch. And if you manage to break it, then I might be able to fix it while you're on the Zoom, and if not, I'll write that down, and then next time I'll find someone else, and someone else, and someone else. And so if anybody watching this feels like being a Rockstar live-action Zoom interactive internet guinea pig, all you need to do is open up a website and write some Rockstar code and run it and see if you can make it die. But I think it's going to be really interesting for me, certainly, because it'll be the first time I've seen anybody else kind of start kicking this thing. And I've got, I think, another day of rough edges and just tweaking the bits that I know about. But yeah, so I'm going to try and rack up some stuff next week and get some people looking at that. And the idea is that if you get to the point where half a dozen people can spend 15 minutes on it and none of them find anything obvious, at that point you go and say, right, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, check this out and go and poke it and see what happens. But it's this interesting idea of you don't want, given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow, but if every eyeball sees the same bug, then all the other bugs are hidden because you're going to burn out those eyeballs and they're not going to help you anymore. It's a
labor-intensive approach, but
yes.
Are you going to record any of it and sort of montage it together and get them to sign a disclaimer saying that you can put it on YouTube?
That's a good idea. I could do that. Yeah.
I'm interested to see the sort of things that people would go, so how would I do this?
Yeah.
Because people are evil. Because, this is one of those things where it's another idea that's just frittered across my mind that I will never have time to do. But it'd be really good if somebody built a thing that could adapt Rockstar code and turn it into visuals.
So,
like being able to live code milk drop.
So something, if I win the lottery or just make a lot of money, I am going to put up a 5-figure sum, like £10,000 or something, for anybody who can take the code to Geis and Milkdrop and turn them into After Effects plugins so that I can make videos that look like my old Winamp sessions used to. Because I've resorted to screen recording for some of that. There's a couple of Linebreakers stage backing videos that I just ran the instruments through Winamp and then screen recorded Milkdrop to get the visuals out, but then remembering the exact set of parameters and just being able to like tweak little things. So
that was the whole point of Milkdrop. Everybody had a slightly different configuration because it was all floating point numbers and stuff.
Absolutely amazing. I don't know, Brian Geis, the guy who built it, I don't know what he's doing now. He did something. Geis was open source. That was the Winamp 2 one. And then when Winamp 5 shipped, he Milkdrop, I think, was a professional one. I think he went on to work for Reaper or something, but I don't know. So,
yes, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Same sort of space, isn't it?
But yeah, Milkdrop rocked. So,
yeah, I want to be able to live code Milkdrop. I had a realization as well. About 5-string basses and potentially buying 5-string basses because we're going to build a framework. The original bass line from the Billy Joel song was arranged for a 5-string. So I was thinking, I need a 5-string to record it for the backing track. But of course, we're going to use the backing track over the footage that was recorded in Oslo. And on the footage, I'm playing a 4-string. And so I'm going to do it on the 4-string. I
think you credit our audience with too much sophistication. I don't think anybody will notice that.
That's it's going on YouTube.
This is true, actually. You put stuff on YouTube, and you get the special people. Hello, special people.
How are you playing a C4?
Yeah. I did work out once from a YouTube video that Guns N' Roses toured the world with a concert grand piano that had been tuned down by half a step. Because they're Guns N' Roses.
Yes.
I was watching Axl playing November Rain. I'm like, this song is in it's in C flat, I think, actually it's in G flat. But he's playing a regular G. And of course, it's likely that what it was a Roland digital piano inside a big box that looked like a grand piano. But I like to think Axl would be like, no, bring me a grand and tune it down, and we'll tour the world with that. So
Have you ever seen Bill Bailey does a bit about playing major things in minor?
Yes.
And minor things in major.
Yes.
And one of the things he does is Happy Birthday.
Yes.
Because Happy Birthday is supposed to be sung in a major key. Because it's a bunch of people, they all start singing at the same time, everybody in different keys, and then it collapses after the first line into the sort of average. And quite often that ends up being minor. So then you got the whole thing going, Happy Birthday. And it's just,
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
It's nice, but it's not very happy birthday-ish.
Well, no, but...
No. And if you haven't seen Bill Bailey do that sort of thing... Also, the Doctor Who theme reimagined as Belgian jazz.
We apparently upset Bill Bailey once.
Who's
Spotlight. Oh. When I worked at Spotlight, Bill Bailey had a bit about Spotlight, because we used to go and watch him preparing new material at the Leicester Square Theatre, because it was underneath our office. And so he used to do these, it's one of those places lots of comedians would do late shows there. So you go to the pub for a couple of hours, and then about 10 o'clock you go to the Leicester Square Theatre, and for a tenner you could watch people like Bill Bailey do 45 minutes of jokes they're not sure about yet. And then when their next arena tour will be all the best bits from all of those. And he did a whole bit about his Spotlight page and how he used to make up skills and put them in. Like he used to write on the form that he was magnetic and he could levitate, and that they always picked them up. And we thought this was rather lovely, and we thought it was a nice bit of a shout out. And so we put a little bit of code in that if you were looking at Bill Bailey's CV, it would say he was magnetic. I sort of heard about fourth hand that his agent rang very, very upset that there was this nonsense material By which point I had left the company, so I wasn't in a position to do anything very much about it. But yeah, and I sort of like, if you're gonna like use our job as fodder for your stand-up, we're gonna repay the favour.
Bill Bailey was probably fine with it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Agents are weird like that.
I have always suspected that a large part of the agent's job is to be grown up, because if the person they represent was grown up, nobody would book them.
Well, yes,
and so
yeah, that's accurate, actually.
You know, like certainly rock and roll booking and you know, band managers are like, right, this band has sold 1 million records because they're always off their faces on drugs and they destroy hotel rooms and everything. Your job is to have them here at 7 o'clock sharp so they can do their jobs. Very, very good. Off you go.
Yes.
Anyway, we are
it.
just about out of time. Thank you for tuning in, gang. It has been a pleasure, as always. And we will see you on YouTube, because Twitter is a wretched hive of vum and skillany. We'll see you on YouTube.
Yes,
so yeah, if every time we do this show we can get a couple of people off Twitter and onto YouTube, then that will be making the world a better place, because they're both corporate.
Those people like and subscribe.
Yeah, trillion dollar multinationals, but at least one of them isn't run by Elon Musk. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.